Yeah.
Joshua Frank. Joshua Frank wrote a book, Atomic Days, The Untold Story of the Most Toxic Place in America. And Hanford is the most heavily contaminated radioactive waste site in the Western Hemisphere. The Hanford Nuclear Reservation in Washington was home to the United States' largest plutonium production site used to make the atomic bomb that was dropped on Nagasaki in World War II, turning the whole area into a sacrifice zone. Our government forced the displacement and relocation of the Wanapum Native American Nation and all tribes who had lived along the Columbia River and had used the area for fishing, hunting, food gathering, and religious purposes from time immemorial were denied access. Tribal access today remains restricted despite treaty reserved rights for the Yakama Nation, Nez Perce, Umatilla, and Wanapum band to hunt, fish, and gather. And it's 8 decades later, and that access is still restricted. Now we come to adding more, and adding new nuclear waste to this legacy extends the colonial burden already carried by the river and affected tribes. Hanford has become the costliest environmental remediation project the world has ever seen, and it's arguably the most contaminated place on the entire planet. Which brings us to X-energy at Hanford. X-energy is a nuclear reactor and fuel design company with headquarters in Rockville, Maryland. They signed in July 2023 a joint development agreement for an advanced small modular reactor project next to the Columbia Generating Station. Energy Northwest runs the Columbia Generating Station, which is the only nuclear power plant operating in the Pacific Northwest and the only one remaining from the Washington Public Power's supply system disaster that occurred in the 80s. This proposal by Energy Northwest is to start with 4 and have up to 12 helium-cooled pebble bed nuclear reactor modules that will produce 960 megawatts total, which is certainly not small. The XE100, there's a graphic on the left-hand side. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's on their website. It's a reactor design seeking Nuclear Regulatory Commission approval with no operating history, and its actual costs are unknown. And the other graphic, as Lloyd talked about, is the fuel pebble. They use a HALEU fuel called trisofuel, which they brag about being meltdown proof and walk-away safe, but that has not been demonstrated or proven, so the risks remain. This map shows where Energy Northwest will build Amazon's proposed Cascade Advanced Energy Facility, which is the name they've now given it. And on the right-hand side, you can see the blue arrow with the word Amazon above it, pointing to the location where the Columbia Generating Station now is operating, and this fleet of small modular reactors will follow if this project is successful. And Energy Northwest is very clear. They want to run the Columbia Generating Station for another 80 years, for at least 80 years,